some stuff if we're cool with it.
We can definitely do that.
Got to finish some dust and stuff.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Just Figuring It Out. We've got the three of us here together again, guys. Super excited. I've got a couple of topics I want to hit on, but how are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Just
Doing
excellent,
good.
man. It's another great Friday.
It is a great Friday. We were just talking off air about a secret that not many people know, that which Alex has some incredible experience as being a mascot at a major university, which will not dox him publicly on where it was unless he really wants to. But we were just laughing about experiences trying to go to the bathroom as a mascot, which in a giant onesie costume, which we'll save for another day too. But I'm really excited. We've had a busy week. Lots of calls with clients. Doing the normal stuff that we do. And one of the things that's been coming up though is I just thought guys would be really interesting to talk about is we have, for those who don't know, we obviously do fractional CFO services. We train owners how to understand their finances, but we've also added a bookkeeping component. And we were just talking this week on one of our team calls are we ready to really like fully open it up, to launch it, to get more clients in the door? And we're going back and forth with the entire team talking about it and what we should do. And it just really got me thinking this week, guys. We've been guilty of this so much. We see this so often with clients, which is I have this a new thing I could sell, a new service, and really just going through like, does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Why are we doing it? Right. And I think maybe we start. Actually, Alex, maybe I'll go to you first because
No, I'm still laughing from that intro, man. That was the
you're still
that was
laughing from the
that's
intro.
the most random podcast, like the wildest podcast intro for a business podcast I've ever heard. And
Hey,
then
we
you
got
If
to
hard
keep
you'd like
it.
to
pivoted
see the
so well
wildest
into
podcast
bookkeeping.
intro, check out the link below that we had with the podcast about a mascot doing a thing.
Look, Only Mascots is a website. It's probably going to be started somewhere, and we'll make sure we get Alex added to that. But
No, no,
we're just
please.
we're just keeping it real, and we're talking about the real things. Maybe I'll toss the in. So we got
Good.
the things that's been popping up is we for a long time we didn't offer bookkeeping, and I guess maybe the thought here, and this will just tie in I think with everything, which is like every business I feel like that we've met has moments where they go, man, I want to open up this new service line. I want to do these new products, right? I want to sell this new stuff. And one of the first questions is like, why are we doing it? So maybe we'll start with our own business. We didn't offer bookkeeping for what, Alex, the first 3 years, 4 years? Uh,
4 years of doing this thing, yeah.
yeah. And I mean, how many times do you think we've been asked, do we do
All
bookkeeping
the
up to
time.
all the time,
100%.
right?
Just like, "Oh, when are you
So
guys
maybe
gonna do
Alex,
this?" Like, from paying clients too, not just from random people, but, like, from paying clients begging us to do it for them.
yeah. So maybe we start there because Alex, I got you on a hopefully a non-laughing track
Yeah.
for a sec of maybe what was the right. So we had this opportunity in front of us the entire time of just so many people with demand, right? Demand wasn't an issue. Hey, you guys do bookkeeping? I guess maybe talk through the first 4 years, kind of what kept us from why we didn't go after that, why we didn't chase it, right? It's something that was there. We could have gone on Upwork and found a bookkeeper, LinkedIn, found a bookkeeper and just said, let's do it. Maybe talk through, you were on that side of things way more than I am. Kind of what kept us from doing that, or I guess the reasoning behind why or why not.
Yeah. One word, focus, period. It's really hard to do one thing really well in business and do it well enough that you make money on it consistently over time while still enjoying that thing. And for all of those reasons, we had pretty intense levels of focus on like, no, we're just going to do our one thing that we can scale and that we also don't feel like we've kind of gotten the most, we haven't fully been squeezing the juice out of the one thing, right? It's like, hey, how can we just, which is very opposite to how we operated our business over the first 3 years. Well, as you remember, for those who don't know, like we operated a kind of marketing, consulting, and education company when we were first starting in business, and we got really, really good at making lots of different offers. And as we were trying to figure out business, period, we would be like, all right, let's try this thing, let's try this thing, let's try this thing. And frankly, like none of them flopped. Altogether, they all collectively worked well. And we actually kind of got this skill set down of figuring out what people wanted, coming up with a minimum viable offer, validating it before we actually built it, meaning like getting people to pay us, building the thing, delivering on the thing, getting people results, and finding out what other problems people had. And so we pivoted pretty hard. And Ian came into the business as our coach, like right at this time period when we were pivoting from, hey, we can do a lot of different things. We're good at putting out offers to, well, let's just do one thing and go really deep on the one thing until it's so dialed in that it's like, okay, yeah, this is on rinse and repeat and we can get results repeatedly and it's not me getting the results, that was a really big thing for us, especially because I think people underestimate how hard it is to get customers at scale beyond just like word of mouth or something. And so for us, we had focused so hard on let's go build one advertising channel that can work on a repeat basis that we can scale to go sell one thing and deliver that one thing to the point where like I'm sure we have handed away millions of dollars because we didn't have a good recurring upsell or back end offer for like the first literally 3 years. It was like we sell this one thing, and when you're done, I hope you got out of it what you wanted. And sorry, we don't have anything else to offer you. Like literally, that was it. And so that the reason though was focus. Just like, all right, let's just do this one thing until it works, rather than try to chase, you know, multiple rabbits that we're never going to catch. Like, let's just do the one. And then once it was like, okay, now we can do this thing on a repeat basis. Now let's start looking at what we can offer after that. And before bookkeeping, we decided that CFO services were a better, more natural fit of continuing with people who wanted help. And we really didn't scale or haven't opened up bookkeeping services until we got the CFO stuff down. Right. And so rather than, I think this is the hard thing with all of this, kind of the point of the podcast is if you think that there's this shiny object out there, there's this one new revenue stream because you saw someone killing it on YouTube or Instagram or wherever, or you see a competitor doing it and you think they're making lots of money. We just all underestimate as business owners how hard it is to make those things work in addition to what we're already doing. And we see this so many times in businesses as we shift focus away from the main thing can start not working well. And before we know it, it's like, oh crap, what's going on? Why is my business so terrible? Why do I feel like it's so chaotic? It's like, wow, because we didn't have a clear focus. And so once we realized or got to the point where we decided that adding this one thing doesn't actually detract from our main thing, it makes it better. That's when it was like, okay, now we can hit go. And so once we realized that, hey, adding this one service, we are ready for it. We have the people for it. We have the processes down. But more importantly, it just makes our main thing better, more enjoyable, more effective. Cool. Then we get the green light to go do it. And it's been a slow rollout. And honestly, I've really enjoyed that to not have the pressure of needing to make this thing like, bah, it's got to happen. It's got to work right this second. It's been an enjoyable process, at least for me. I don't know, Will, how
Yeah,
you felt about that, or Ian on the like bookkeeping startup side, but it's been a
yeah.
slower rollout than most people would say we should have done.
Well, it made me think of a couple of things you were talking about that. I think one is also some level of humility of recognizing how we were as operators at the time. Like, looking back, it would have been so easy where I am now, to go back and go, you guys should have bolted on bookkeeping, right? And we had people telling us that, but I didn't even know how to operate a fractional CFO firm at the time. Nonetheless, be able to go operate a bookkeeping side of things. So one, it was sort of a reality of, to your point, of not even recognizing how hard it was to operate our existing business or services, and then what it would take to operate further services, especially one that we didn't have as much of a domain over, period, from a doing side of things. And then two, I do think one thing this has come up so many times over the last 7-8 years for us as a company, as a team, is the shiny object becomes so shiny when things are hard with the existing business, right? Where it's like, oh man, revenue's down this month, or profit's down this month. We do have that thing over there that we could go test and do. And that's when it's just so appealing. And it's been really great that we're able to talk to each other, because if we didn't, I know individually there'd be times where it's like, yeah, let's see if we can do that, because I know I could go bring in, $20,000 of bookkeeping business this month if we really push it, and that solves our current financial crunch problem. Which is like, okay, yes, it solves a superficial sort of immediate pain, but it's not really getting to the root of why is the current business feeling so hard. And I think, Ian, you've been seeing this a lot with clients. And so just as you were talking, Alex, it made me think of, by no means have we not been tempted and or done this many times, where we're like, yeah, let's do this. Let's launch the new thing. But almost every time it's been more of a Band-Aid pull than it's been a like, this makes a ton of sense, which is why with the bookkeeping, it's been really nice. It's been a thought out, we don't need this. It's a nice supplement to what we're doing. It's not hey, we're doing this to solve a profit gap that we have in the company, which just takes the pressure off it as well. But Ian, I'm curious, because you jumped in full time as a partner, in this transition as we were like considering it and then coming in. And I guess, yeah, I'd love your take on just what you've seen over time with the appeal of these periods of like, hey, should I go launch a new thing? Should I open the new service line? Yeah, I'm gonna leave it kind of open ended too, because I know you got some avenues you could take it down.
Woof. I love it. There's a lot. There's a lot to unpack, but I think the main thing I notice with entrepreneurs is I love what you said about it usually becomes the shiny object thing becomes really appealing when you're in fear. Because what I see a lot of owners do is instead of doing the stair step or the experiment process of like, let's see in a reasonable way, they go, let's burn the ships and go all into the new thing. Because that fear gives them the justification to go like to not actually see their current thing and the behaviors and what's happening in it and seeing that they can still like work through that. Or it might be true that the current one is no longer the one that could be beneficial, but it's like a, hey, is this like what I want long term, or what do I actually want from this in the future? So that question, like, what do you want, is a big one, because I find a lot of us, I've done it many times. We end up just recreating the last business in a different way, but it's like, right? It's like, oh, we're doing this now, but it's like it's kind of it's a different label, but it's kind of the same thing. Like here we are again, and I think what's so fun is when you start to recognize that. And with verticals, this gets really tricky. And Alex said this earlier, and I think it's something that's really important to recognize. As you get more experience as a business owner, you can do a decent job at taking almost any model or integration and making it like profitable. Like you can do that, but you only have so much bandwidth, and you can tell yourself it's synergistic and it's going to help my current. You can totally convince yourself that this is going to be the thing that makes it even better or the next best thing. And what's so hard about that temptation is it might have been what got you to where you are. So, but you have to look back and go, but I didn't have anything. It was nothing or this before. I don't have to make those conditions again. And it's very hard as a business owner to say, is there a way I can sustain what I'm doing while going and exploring the new things? And there is. There's actually simple frameworks and steps to do that. We talk with a lot of the business owners about it when we're doing fractional CFO services. We pretty much come in and we're like, here's what we're noticing, here's the things, and we can talk through how that looks, and we can even get into it a little bit. But I think for me, it's when I'm feeling that shiny object thing, is it coming from a place of like desire or want, or is it coming from a place of fear or things I don't want? That's what I ask myself first, because I think it's really important. And this is just a personal one. I ask myself, I don't have to commit to it, but would I be willing to do that forever?
Mm.
It's just a personal one, because I go, well, why the heck would I go start it if I wouldn't be willing to? I don't have to commit to it forever, but if I'm not even willing to, or I'm going, Ian, in 3 years you're just gonna. So what are we doing here? And sometimes the answer might be, oh yeah, well, I want to do this thing for the next 3 years, and then I'm gonna do something else. That's okay, but just get clear with yourself on what is the darn thing for. And usually it's I'm trying to get out of what I don't want to feel right now, because maybe I haven't had like significant doubling or growth or something that I want to feel like really good about, or I haven't achieved the next thing. That happens a lot. I get it. I find that steady growth to a lot of business owners feels like death. And that's part of the problem. Not even recognizing that you're growing. Anywho, that's my take on it. And I think I'd be curious for you, Will, like, because we shifted our business significantly in the last year or two. Like if you looked at the two models, it's like night and day as far as how revenue is coming in, how it stays, how long people stay, relationships. And one thing I do, I'll tee it up a little bit. I want to bring it back to is we found that one of our biggest core values is like having deep, meaningful relationships with our clients. Like that was really important to us, and it kept us coming back to wanting to grow with them. So a lot of the things that we put in place, we ask ourselves that question, like, is this going to really like deepen or improve connection with the client? And that's how we tend to like look at things in our lens, but that comes with trade-offs. So anywho, I'd love to know for you, Will, what some of your takeaways around especially shiny objects in the last couple of years, and things that actually have like worked really well. And then things I'd love to know like what you've learned about yourself with shiny object.
And one, I think as you were talking, both as you and Alex were talking, I think one of the things too that was coming up was, I don't know why it just was hitting me, the impact it has on your team, that has on team of going after these things. So I just look back at times we've had, let's say for a month, that I don't know, let's just say maybe we've had 3 payments that aren't coming through. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, for all of us to hit our owner, our take home goal, team take home goal, like we're not on pace if we can't collect those. And so the idea is, hey, we've had this thing that we sold in the past. It was like a group program. Let's go sell that real quick. Let's see if we can go make some quick cash. In my mind, as the owner, one of the owners is, I'm trying to help the team. I'm trying to save the situation. I'm trying to rescue the situation. I went to the team and said, I'm going to launch this thing. And we have a great team, and they're like, okay. But then we, after that first day, we met again, and it got the like, hey, why are we doing this again? Like, what's the reasoning behind this? And I was like, oh, remember, and I got to do this. I got to save this. And just to see the team be like, are we in a bad spot? Are we in a bad situation? Like, why are we panicking to do, and realizing like, I thought I was doing what was necessary to make everyone happy. This is what's going to do it. And realizing like, wow, my behavior is sharing to the, essentially rubbing off on the team that something must be wrong, that we're in panic stage. There's something going. That transition from like when it was just us always doing everything, it was like, who cares? We're going to go do it. And now of like, wow, seeing that shiny object doesn't just play on me and how I feel, but also like, what does that do downstream to team that's also looking at me going, you're usually like super calm. And now all of a sudden we're in like 100-mile-an-hour mode. Like, should I be worried about the business? Do I need to worry about my job? And, as a newer leader in that role of realizing like, one, I either have to be incredibly transparent about what we're doing and why we're doing it, which in my style has always been usually the case. Although there's sometimes where like, I can't give you 100% transparency just out of fairness to everyone in certain situations. Like, but also realizing that, I have to, my desire to solve my immediate problem is going to have impacts on the rest of the team as well. So just as you were bringing that up, because that was the thing think we see, right? And it's the struggle that I imagine is going through most business owners' minds when they want to launch a new service, launch a new thing. I will say, so to answer your question, yeah, there have been times where it's been super helpful, right? Especially if an existing thing that has sold. And this is where I think that for a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, I think they've had studies that most are more of the visionary type, not the operator analysis oriented. It's someone's got to go out, talk to people, sell something, and do that. That's usually not the overanalyzer is usually not going to be the person to go do that. And so the default is, rather than, and I fall into this category where it's like, I feel mundane in the operation of it sometimes, where I'm like, but we could just go sell more, and that solves a problem. And so I think so many business owners are oriented to, I'm stuck at trying to figure out the operation that's going on, the problems that are going on operationally in this business. There's something over here. I could just go market and sell all of the cash problems we have, done, right? That feels like this safe, because it taps into your internal skill set for most business owners. I can go market and sell that thing. That solves a problem, buys me time to go back here and do this, even though I've just been avoiding all of this because I'm not great at this. And I'm so guilty of that. And I think that's just a reality of recognizing the pattern in that.
Dude,
Sorry, or Alex, yeah.
I feel like it comes down to the difference between, is this a Band-Aid or a blueprint? Like, is this something that I'm just saying, we're doing this, we're expanding, we're offering this thing, we're doing whatever to solve some core fundamental gap in what we're already doing? And the problem with that is, guess what? If that's how you've operated, and no shade to us, it's like we've experienced this too, where it's like, hey, something is broken or not working over here. I'm sure if I go do something extra, it can make up for that. Versus like, well, what if doing that something extra, I also do it with maybe the same lack of care or intentionality or focus that I've applied to this existing thing that for some reason isn't working. And we see this with business owners where they have like physical locations, especially, or product lines where it's like, hey, I'm going to go expand because the current thing isn't working. I just need more of the thing that's not working. It's like, okay, so again, Band-Aid or blueprint. The blueprint side is like, am I doing this intentionally? Have I thought through this? Is this aligned to what Ian was saying with like what I actually want? Or is this a reaction to something? And I just find it so useful to pause. It doesn't mean that you can't take Band-Aid actions, right? Because sometimes you're going to need to do that. Hey, cash flow's really terrible. I need to take a line of credit, pull some money out of my line of credit. Totally fair, right? Like those things will happen, but we can't only keep applying Band-Aids. Like eventually you realize the Band-Aids aren't a a real structure on which to build. And so it's just useful to pause. And I've found it for myself. Like, hey, am I just continuing to take band-aid level actions? If so, what's driving that? Usually it's a fear, right? Like underlying it, there's something that I am worried about happening in the future or that's going on right now. Or I am so aggressively maybe like head in the clouds that I only see some vague end destination. I'm like, this is what gets us there. I don't care. It's like, let's breathe. And can I like learning to be okay with now is a very difficult thing as a business owner because we're also future focused. And sometimes I have caught myself where like I'm going to put my head in the sand to like screw the like being thoughtful that I just see the vision, I see the goal we're going for. I mean, we've done that before when we were like, "Hey, it's time to scale super aggressively, and we're gonna double ad spend, and we're gonna hire." And like, I remember like these words coming out of my mouth when we were making a very rushed sales hire. Will, you probably remember this. And I was like, dude, there is such a huge opportunity cost for not having any butt in this seat that we just like, we'll take anyone. And now, being reflective, I can look back and say, hey, anytime where I see myself feeling like, we just got to do this, we should like, there's this like urgency about it and this nervous energy, like, let's stop and see. And now, like, all the cost of making the wrong hire is one of the most expensive costs that we have paid in our business. The wrong hire at the wrong time, like, by far the most expensive thing. It way more expensive than the opportunity cost of missing out on maybe getting a couple extra sales or whatever it is. And that's so hard to pause yourself in as a business owner because we've been conditioned that that's what it takes to make the business work. When in the early stages of the business, it might have required just a bunch of drastic action, like you're talking about. Well, it was way easier to do that level of stuff when it was just a couple of us. But then as the business grows and it starts to mature and the decisions have greater impacts, like I can't just take violent action as a business owner anymore. It stops working, right? I know that's what I'm learning the hard way as a business owner by going through it.
I love what you said there too, because two things came up in my head when you were saying it. One was, yeah, it's like okay to feel that excitement about something new, but I think usually where I know I've gotten into trouble, you said it really well, creating this like urgency of like we have to do it yesterday. And it also can come up where I'll watch people in their head, they're making plans, but they're setting timelines, having never done something before and creating it like this is, we got, and then but it shifts at some point to like, we have to do it by this time. And it's like, you didn't have to yesterday and everything was fine. Like, where did this come from? Right. So it's the dreaming and we're planning and doing, this is awesome. I love this. I love the innovation. But then all of a sudden, like we're putting this like hard deadline stop on it and like the world's going to end if we don't triple in a year. And I always watch people do that thinking like I get it, it's like the motivation discipline thing, but I just find that the vehicle is so much less enjoyable that way. And also, what if we put a little bit of that planning thinking into, hey, is there one step I can take to like prove this right or wrong, or to like see if this would be something that's enjoyable before we just take like half or more of our resources of time, energy, attention, money and put it into this new thing. And what's so interesting is I always ask myself when I slow down, if I'm not willing to sit and parse through what that would look like, is it really something that's worth pursuing? If I'm not willing to sit there for an hour and go, hey, is there a simple like test or a way I could do this to like see if it's actually what I think it's going to be? So that's one good thing that I'll sit with myself and ask. The other thing that you said there, Will, that I think is so important and it's so often overlooked, and you said, or Alex said, what, violently take action? But Will, when you were mentioning how we communicate these things to team, because when it's just founders or just you doing all the stuff, everything being here is fine because like you're just talking to yourself all the time. So, but if it turns into person A that we're like, here's the core values and the mission, and here's what your job is, and here's what we're doing. And they're like, great, that's what's happening. And then you come in one day, or I come in one day, and I'm like, here's what we're doing. And we forgot to give the whole like beginning of the context of like how we're feeling and what we're seeing and everything else. They're just like, what? Okay. And if you get an adaptable team, they're like, all right, we'll give it a shot. But then it just becomes the interesting, like, are we rowing here? Or are we rowing here? And what's been so fascinating, we joke about giving disclaimers in the team, but it's like I find just literally leading with either here's what I'm noticing or here's what I'm feeling or here's what I'm thinking before you go, oh, and we're going to launch this thing or do this thing, and getting your team, asking for feedback from your team, which our team's so great with just being honest with us and saying, like, we've even had our team push back and just be like, hey, is that going to be the best way to improve XYZ, or is that like going to be the best way to lead here? And I think what's so cool about that is that we all trust each other to do that. And I think one of the best things in growing your team, if you can do it as a leader, is to create an environment where you're actually going to take feedback from people, listen, present it, go back and forth. But that's really hard if you want speed. If you want speed and you're used to, I built this thing, and if I feel this way, I can go do this thing and I'll figure it out. And I've proved that I can figure out every single time because look where I am. This is why a lot of people find they hit a ceiling with leadership and with team, and they actually hit that kind of limitation of, oh, I never can really grow past this thing. It's usually, I find that piece. I've just seen it over and over and over again. But yeah, time and team are the biggest things that I see when I go shiny object. Let's do this. It's every single time. I love that you said it too, Alex. It's like you almost just need that little meter that's like, feel the heck out of that excitement and like roll with it. But then after you fell through that, let's take a minute and go, how could we set this up in a way that I could keep enjoying it, keep having that excitement? Not like I'm now creating this. If I don't do this, I'm not a good business owner. Now I'm creating like a guilt shame spiral. And now I'm just like grinding through my days to hit this goal that I initially was excited about. And then 3 months later, it's like the thing I hate the most. So, anywho, off my soapbox I go. Back to you.
Can I just make one observation in this week? So we sort of started doing bookkeeping really maybe like a year ago. Ian was leading it internally as a test, which I've loved that this is how we've approached it. Like, oh, let's go test it out and see what we like and what we don't like and what it needs to look like in order for us to want to keep doing it. But then we found a person that their thing is like, I love this. And for us, that's been so freeing. And I remember Ian for you and handing that off where it's like, my gosh, like I do want to expand this. But as I got into it, I realized I didn't want to be the one to have to lead it. It's been so interesting to like, hey, someone else on the team actually loves this, is highly competent and is like, yeah, let's do it. And here's what it looks like. And I'll lead the thing. That has been so enjoyable. Like it's been so interesting to feel like now this almost like pure trust in this handoff, but also enjoyment that like you find someone else that loves this thing where if it were on my shoulders, it would like be a back burner thing realistically, but I would be gritting my teeth where it's like I just know that like yes, it's useful to our clients, etc. But I don't have a passion around it, and so it's been so nice to find someone that is like that. That coupled with what you were mentioning earlier, Will, like we don't have the pressure to make this work right away. It's like, hey, there's enough other margin in the rest of what we're doing to let this be a little bit of a sandbox playground expansion. And now it's at the point where it's like, hey, sweet, it's profitable. Hey, sweet, it's working. Hey, it's systematized. Hey, there's people like the right people in the seat. And it's like this to me feels like the way expansion should feel that I don't feel like we've experienced this before. Where when we have expanded or added new things, it's just felt like a lot more high pressure and like it was all on us. And I guess this is the leadership growth happening. So thanks, Ian, for helping to guide us through this. It's like, hey, like you can find people that love the thing that you don't love. You can hand that off and then like let's not because it could feel very different if we were like, we have to make this happen, like you were saying, by this deadline, we have to get to this profit number. Versus like, I don't know, man, let's just let it happen and it'll grow and it'll be fun. And it's like, I'm loving the bookkeeping division right now. I have zero stress around it. And like it's working. It's just so different from how we've grown things in the past.
Well, it's also different because it's, once again, I'll harp on this a little bit. The way we've often taught ourselves to grow is I have to be coming from a deficit and I have to get it done. And if I don't do that, insert bad thing, punish, whatever thing you want to put in your head. And like, that's the way it has to be, because that's the only way I'm going to somehow like magically wake up and get the thing done. Instead of going, wait, what would a position look like where we're good either way, and we're choosing to do this because it's something that could be a great potential to our business, could help. Maybe someone else or us have shown interest in it, and it's like a big want, and it's something that is truly synergistic. Or even if it wasn't, it's that realization that you mentioned, Alex, of like, I don't have to do the thing. Somebody else might just really enjoy this. And it ends up being in a way in such that I can do the piece that I like. Maybe it's the back and forth, the strategy, or like, what are you doing with this? But I don't have to do the day to day or the operations piece. And I think that's where business owners get stuck because it's almost the hamster wheel of I never can feel like I can't feel like I'm in abundance because I'm not okay with that. One. Two, if I get to that level where I'm like, okay, I'm at this place where everything's kind of going well. Do I even deserve this? Am I going to lose it all? Okay, we won't get into therapy today, but we get there and then you go, great. Can I empower other people to do that too? What would that look and feel like? What would that culture in the business look and feel like? What would I have to let go of to get to that place? And for me, it's always trust. Personally, it's a control trust thing every time, every single darn time. What is it for you guys?
I think it's such a good the I was just as you were talking about that, Ian, it made me think of, really like when one of these moments popped up for me personally, and it's either I find two times, two sort of scenarios. One is boredom. I'm bored with where things are at, or it's stagnant. Right? It just feels like you miss that excitement of something new and like, oh, we're doing this. And to your point, I think it's, looking in and going, well, where is that boredom coming from? I actually like sometimes you buy your time back and you're like, I don't know who I am, what I'm doing, and like, we should do something because I have time. And it's like, okay, well, why am I afraid to just enjoy my own time? Like, why is this, where's there so much guilt? Why is all that? So that comes up number one. And in that case, that does require some therapy, I think, like really looking in and whether it's with team or family, figuring out like, can you enjoy that? Why can't you enjoy that? Two is acute cash flow pain, right? You're just in, and that's a much quicker driver of like, I got to take some crazy violent action to try to solve this. And I look back and I go, well, what's calmed that for us? And this is where I think I encourage a lot of owners to think through, and it can be a painful process because we went through this painful process of, is our business model even sustainable in the way that it is that could ever give us that sort of peace of mind and calm? And I look back, we had no continuation services. Everything was within a 3-month time block, maybe 6 if we did some extended sort of coaching. All the pressure all the time was on, we got to acquire new customers. We got to get new customers in the door. Like that is the way that our business model worked. And we were able to ride that out for so long, but it was also the cause of so much of the stress in our company, which was we got to put ads out enough money to get enough attention, to book enough meetings, to get enough people in the door, to cover cash flow, to cover for the next month. And it, looking back and going, the model was slowly killing, like maybe could have lasted forever that way. I'm sure there are operators who are good enough. You can make that work and you just ride it. It's sort of like an e-com. It's transactional in a lot of ways. You have a short lifetime value, lower lifetime value, but shorter cycle of retaining customers and going, man, this model is really difficult, and going, is there a different way to do this model? And then having Ian, right, and us understanding, going through our own journey of, I remember thinking fractional CFO meant you need to have like quantum mechanics degree in like finance, right, and econ, and realizing jumping in, this is where it's so helpful. I jumped into a fractional CFO community group and was like, oh my gosh, Alex, they talk about all the stuff that you do with clients. I've yet to hear them say something different. How many times have I done this with our media buying where I'm like, there's some secret, I don't know, it's going to get us the next thing. And then you're like, there's no secret. It's just people do it a lot more and they do it more often. And and you're like, and that allowed us to shift the model, which then goes to my second point, which was, well, I was going to say one, what helped us with that is when we did have good months, we kept reserves. And that limited the amount of times we felt in a panic to have to do something. Don't get me wrong. There have been plenty of moments where we've still done that, but it has mitigated a lot of the times where otherwise it would be like, we got to launch something new next month. We got to do something different next month. We got to change pricing next month. Reserves have been a massive, being disciplined in the good times has really helped us to navigate those waters. And I forget what I was going to say on the second point, but yeah, I'll toss to you guys because we've probably wrap up here in a couple minutes. But yeah, that stuck with me of the model itself to being such and it was a hard, goes to my second point. There it is. We actually we've gone through a period of contraction team wise over the last 3 to 6 months. But that contraction's what's allowing us to move into this next phase of expansion. I know that can, and as an owner, that feels so contradictory or conflicting, where it's like our team's dwindling in some areas, and it feels like are we not as successful? Are we losing? And then, but you're having to wrap your brain around where our model's changed. The model doesn't serve for us to expand long term. Doesn't function the way it did before, where we needed certain pieces to go. And if we were on that path, absolutely, but the way that things have changed and what sets this sort of organism to grow long term, it's not as like we need to contract to be able to build again in a different way. And that's hard, man, because you're talking about people, you have friends that you've grown to care and love. And so you face all that, and it's like shiny object could just like delay me having to make that decision for a while. What if I just go get a quick grab of something, buys me time. I don't have to make that decision. I don't have to do the hard, deep work right now. And I just look at how changing our model really has drastically improved that sense of calm. And to answer your question about like, how do we have the time to sit with ourselves on that? I think that's been a big one of setting it up in a way where the pressure doesn't feel there. Reserves have played a huge part in that, being disciplined when we've had really good months. And then two, being willing to accept that maybe we're not in the best business model that we could be in, and being humble enough to say we need to make a change. I don't know. We'll wrap it up. I know Alex has got to run here in a minute. So I just covered a lot of ground there in the last little bit. But any parting thoughts? Any parting shots, you guys?
I'd love to know Alex's parting answer
I
to that.
I just as we sit with this, it's like why do I have and why do we as owners often have this incessant drive for like more equals better when sometimes like less or more simple can actually be far more enjoyable. And not from a like, hey, you got to shrink your business, etc. But like, can I be okay with a smaller, more profitable business? Like, can I feel okay about that? And so it's this asking myself and kind of all of us as owners, like, what is it that we actually value, and why do we value that? And do we continue to value the things that we did a couple of years ago, or? And I look at like the places where I have fallen into this trap of like, yes, we must grow, we must expand, we must do this. For me, comes down to Will, what you said about boredom. Boredom for me gets expressed as seeing additional problems and my brain being like, I'll bet we could solve that. And just like, like, oh, we could do this service, we could do this thing, right? And it's hard because as an entrepreneur, I'm like, I have wired my brain for that. Finding and solving problems equals getting the outcomes that I want in life. And like at some point, you can't, well, I'm finding for myself, like in the very human limits that I now realize I have, like I can't just keep looking for the next problem to solve, the next problem to solve, the next problem to solve for someone else versus like, can I solve one problem really well for someone and then like be cool with that for a while and enjoy that? And then as bandwidth allows and as team allows, et cetera, then yeah, then we can look at expanding stuff. But like more isn't always the answer. Sometimes it's going to be more free time for yourself, more time to literally sit and think rather than solve, put out fires. Maybe it's going to be less of some things, but more enjoyment of those fewer things. And that breaks paradigms for us as entrepreneurs. And know it's doing that for me. And so as we look at growth and more and expansion, it's like, okay, cool. Why? Is this really what I want? Or is it just that I've conditioned myself for this and it's what I've always done? And then I have to ask myself, well, am I happy with what I've always done? Is it getting me what I actually want? Or am I constantly in pursuit of this carrot that's on a stick that every time I sprint towards it, that stupid carrot keeps moving? And then I just keep thinking, oh, if I run faster towards it, maybe I can grab it. It's like, yeah, but it's like attached to my back on a fishing pole. And every time I take a step, it keeps moving. And so just like, yeah, am I continuing to move the finish line? If so, why? Or can I realize that like, this isn't some race and I can just be like, interesting. Anyways, Will, thanks for coming up with a cool topic for us today, man. This is a fun one. 'Cause I love it's like, yeah, we're actually
It's one
in it
we're
right.
living. Yeah. It's one that we're living through. And I would love to, by the way, if anyone's, if you're tuning in or you're listening, I'd love to know, hit us up on either whether Instagram, CEO Finance Academy, YouTube now, you can message us directly through YouTube. Let us know, like, is there a shiny object that you're facing right now you want to talk through? Has it ever worked for you? Has it, what's kind of been a one that hasn't worked out? It's the whole point of this really is to just share kind of our, the journey of going through this together. So shoot us a message. We'd love to hear your story if you're out there. Otherwise, we will see you on the next episode of Just Figuring It Out.